Pete Calandra here. For today's video, I thought that I would do first impressions of the Arturia FX collection. Now this is a bunch of effects processors, and as we can see here, they're very vintage looking. You got compressors, delays, reverbs, preamps, and filters. I recently upgraded and added all of these effects into my plugin folder, but I've been using these filters for a while, and I particularly like the mini filter and the M12 filter. What I thought I'd do today, rather than giving you a detailed look at each thing, would be a first impressions. I've got a track up here, which is a film cue from a film I scored in 2004. And I've decided to just mix this only using the plugins that come in the FX collection, with the exception of center, just to give the piano a little bit more of a stereo spread. What I like about this particular piece is that it's got all live players and it's dynamic, the little Latin feel to it. So let's play through it, and then we'll come back afterwards on the other side, and I'll just walk you through what I've done here. We recorded this live with the rhythm section and then overdubbed the horn players later. These are all top flight New York City musicians playing here. We've got congas, 3 tracks for drums, just a stereo overhead, kick and snare, minimal. We don't really need that much for this kind of a track. We have 3 tracks for bass. I put TLM 103 by the bridge, a little bit away from the sound hole bridge area. KM 184 up on the fretboard, about 3/4 of the way up. And then also a direct line from the pickup, stereo track for the piano, and a trumpet, which was recorded with a TLM 103 going through a Grace mic preamp, and the same with the soprano sax. So this is a good mix. There's things that could be better about it. I could spend more time tweaking. The final mix, the original mix, was done by my friend Ken Freeman, and that sounds fantastic. But this is a mix I whacked up in about 45 minutes. So let's take a look at the congas. All right, so I'm using this preamp here, which is obviously a take on a Neve preamp, and I've got a little bit of input gain to color the sound a little bit, and a little bit of boost at a little over 4K, and a little bit of cut at 60. So let's turn off these, and let's turn off the plate. Kind of dull. A little tighter, and then just gives you that nice punch. Now I've got that going through a plate, and the plate is down here. So I've got the drive up a little bit on the plate. I guess that's a tube. It's supposed to emulate tube drive. And I'm using the second model, completely wet and as wide as can be, and about 2 seconds delay, I think, the decay time. So let's take a listen to that. Now let's take a listen to the drums. I can solo them with this VCA here. Now I've got my drum bus here, and I've got some of that going through the plate as well. Right, I've got the drums, just a touch of the FET. But let's go back up individually. So these are the overheads. Again, some of the Neve, a little input gain to color it, some high boost for the cymbals to give it some sheen. Let's turn that off. That sounds fine, but that really brings it to life a little bit, adds some sheen to the highs and the cymbals. And then I'm using this, I think this is a broadcast compressor. And again, just to capture it a little bit. I mean, I could really drive it if I wanted to, squash it, but that's not really what sounds good. What's nice about these is if you hover over a control on the bottom here, it tells you what it does. Single is a slow response, triple has a faster attack time, while double adapts its response, which I like for this because this is a dynamic track. Okay, let's take a listen to the kick drum. We're really using the overheads and just adding a little definition with the kick and the snare. And I'm using this preamp, and I've got some low end added. Let's turn it off. Just to add some beefiness and some warmth because I'm driving a little bit, the input. And then now the snare, we'll turn everything off. And here I'm using the Trident emulation. I've got a tiny bit of cut in the high end, but I'm really boosting around 500. That's really all I'm doing here. And I'm not even driving it at all. And also going through the FET 76. Now notice I'm really compressing this a little bit more. And I've got the output coming down. No, it's not crazy compression, but I had to drive it more because I don't have the track that loud. And it's nice and crisp. You can hear every instrument. And there's the reverb tail, so I'll play a little and stop it so you can hear the reverb tail. Right? Nice. It's a nice sheen. Okay, so that's the drums, and moving right along, let's solo the bass, listening to the bass VCA. Now, do I have anything on the bass master? Yes, I do. So I've got a little bit of plate on the bass, and I'm adding some low pitch with this pre-V76, and I'm compressing this, yes, with this tube compressor that they've got here. So I'll leave these on and I will mute all of this stuff. So this is all 3 bass tracks together, and then we'll solo them. It's nice and punchy, but we need a little bit more low end. And just tightens it up with the compressor. And just a little bit of plate reverb, not a lot, but just enough to give it a sense that it's not right in your face, but it's part of the ensemble. So let's go to these individual instruments. So this is the 103 down by the sound hole / bridge, and we'll turn the processing off. Again, using the Trident, taking off some of the 3K and boosting around 50K. Just adding some fullness. And the reason I can do that, see, I've got this 184 that gets all the snap. Let's listen to the pickup. Now, if we turn that on, I've really bumped up the low end on the bass. On the pickup, I mean. The composite of that is really nice and full. And then now let's quickly look at the piano, and I will turn off everything on the piano. I'm playing a sampled piano on this. I forget what I was using at the time. Okay, it's nice. I'm using this intense verb that they have, which is what they claim to be a futuristic reverb. That's this here. You can hear it's a little darker. I like that because the piano is very bright, and having a darker reverb is nice, and it also contrasts really well with the plate. And then going back up here, I'm using the delay, but I have the delay automated, which I'll show you in a second. And I'm using for the delay this Roland tape delay. Got that set up as a ping pong. And where's my... I believe I have it set up for dotted eighth notes. Where did I set that up? Let's see. Right, dotted eighth note on both of these. I'll get to that in a second. Let's go back here and let's see what I've done for processing. So the first thing, I did it through the Trident. So again, I'm not really completely familiar with the Trident, but I did try to use it. Takes off some of that high end that I didn't like. It actually sounds pretty nice. And the next processor is, again, adding a second EQ. I'm adding some of that high end back in here at 4, but it's going through the Neve, right? So it's coloring it and it's not as piercing as it was before. So that's really nice. And the next bit here is the first compressor, just through this FET76. Really not doing much compressing, but it is changing the color a little bit. And the last bit is through center to make it a little bit wider. So let's take a look at the automation here. Intense verb level. I have a little solo here. And then when I get to this last section, I want it to be dreamy and spacious. So I'll bring up the level of that reverb. And also, same thing, I've done the same thing with the delay, that the delay doesn't come into that spacious area. Really nice. Okay, let's put this back to waveform and let's resize everything. And let's take a look at our brass. So I've got a brass VCA, and do I have a brass master? Yes. So all I'm doing with the brass master is having it go through this tube compressor. And let me mute that at first, and then let me also mute this, and that's also going through the plate. So everything's dry now for the muted trumpet. And this is a Harmon mute for those of you that don't know. All right, so it's a little piercing, so I made it a little warmer. So this is at almost 4K, taking some down. And then here I've added it to the echo, the Roland echo, which is kind of nice. And if I add the reverb also. In the mix, you don't hear the individual echoes so much, but you do hear that the reverb tail sort of blooms in a way that it wouldn't without the delay. So that's nice. Now let's take a quick look at the soprano. And without the compressor. So for this one, I boosted the high end and I boosted around 110 a little bit. So it added a little clarity and a little fullness to it. And the compressor on. So let's look at our music master here, and let's see what I'm doing here. This is just sending some of the signal out to my Sound Designs recorder. First thing is, it sounds okay, but I'm driving this a little bit, right? Adding some thickness, and I'm boosting the high and the low. And I've got this all going through here, and it's not really doing much compression. It's really just to get the tone of this. I mean, I could drive this a little bit. Maybe I can have a little more. So did you see that they work together? But once I get the compression set to where I want it, I can always turn the master output up to get a little more gain. Typically, I would have some sort of metering plugin. Let's see, Plugin Alliance. Where's my meter? Give me a more accurate view of my output. That's the entire quick walkthrough. I will do a more detailed review, let's say, but this is my first impressions. I whacked this up in an hour or so, and I think it's really instructive. I think these are good plugins. I need to learn how to use them better because some of them are new to me, and see what they're good at and what their benefits are, and see what they're not so good at doing so that I avoid using them. And also, there are other plugins in this bundle that I haven't used. I need to explore those as well. I'm going to play this out. If you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.